for coming to the DCC session today. My name is Cheryl Martin. I am the DCC president, and this is Buddy Gordon, and you are the secretary. And before we start, I wanted to just highlight some student study groups and faculty study groups across the valley. So we have some student-led study groups. There are no faculty at these study groups, but we are right now inviting learners to these study groups. You'll be able to find information on the DC network on the upper right-hand side under groups. It's Phoenix Doctoral Learners, if you go on there. So these are some of the contacts. Some don't have contacts right now and where they meet. If you have any questions about this, can't see it, or want more information, you can email me here. My email is on the other side as well. Faculty groups are actually posted on the DC network right now, and we're getting to post the student groups as well. So these groups are led by faculty, and they're all around various places in the valley. Magic of the rubric, which the rubric is so very important to follow. We want to thank you very, very much for spending all day and then coming here today to speak to doctoral learners tonight. So thank you, Dr. Quade.
Thank you.
This should be down here. Is it a word, right? Mm-hmm. Yep, you are good to go.
Big, big, big. Nice. So if you could go into the DC network and download the dissertation template. If you can't get there quickly or didn't bring your computer, then you'll just take notes. How's that? But so while you're doing that, I'll tell a few stories. So I love the check-in questions. So I'll start with that. And I'll go back to the comment about it's very important to have community. So with locals that are student-sponsored or faculty-sponsored, doesn't really matter. We're having a great time. I want to just pitch that because it's like if you're not there, you're missing a great time. Over in the East Valley, I meet with my group on the first Saturday of the month, and it's funny because there will be a couple of people hanging out in Starbucks, and they'll like watch this little convening of people that seems to know each other, and sometimes we'll start showing up in purple, and we didn't even plan that. And then we'll do a little demo of something, and somebody sat in the back behind us going, wow, that's really interesting. You know, we were getting a student ready to go into AQR. So we were looking at his document as a group. So it was kind of cool. So I have two learners who met each other in residency 1. So how many of you have had your first residency? How many have had your second residency? Oh, okay, so we got quite a few newbies here, right? Newbies, haven't gotten to the first. How many have not even gotten to first residency yet? Oh, there we go, okay. Now I know who to address. Okay, but they met in the first residency. They're both nurses, but from different states. And they decided that they wanted to stay together all the way through the process. So what they set up is that every night, at that time, they started with Skype. Every night at 7 o'clock, they would both go into Skype. They'd say hi, and they would start working at their own space, 2 different states. At 8 o'clock, the little bell would ring, and they'd say, okay, tea time, and they'd go away, and they'd come back 15 minutes later, and they'd put in another hour. So they didn't have to talk. It was no conversation, didn't have to check in with each other. So it was a way that they could hold each other accountable. They have been doing that 5 nights a week now for almost 2 years. So they are going to row each other, and I honestly think one of them is subconsciously slowing herself down so that the other one can catch up, so that they can cross the finish line together. So it's really very interesting. So you don't have to be like right here, but if you want to set yourself up in a little virtual group, it's really kind of interesting. Check that one out. Okay, have you found your little template? One template? One?
Dissertation template?
Yeah. Dissertation template. Anybody still struggling with dissertation template?
Where will it be?
Ha! Somebody's going to scoot over and show you. Yes. Yes.
And I just completed my first class.
Oh, awesome. Congratulations.
Is there a time frame where I can get access to DC Network? Because I have.
Oh,
You're in the DC network. Go in the DC
you
network.
have it in the first year.
Oh, you don't?
You have to have second class. You have to finish your second class before you're able.
Oh. Okay, so you'll take lots of notes. Thank you. I would too. I would too. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is to walk you through the template. And I'm not going to do the whole template because it's 5 chapters and pretty lengthy, but I think you can get a clue about what might be very helpful. Okay? And so interrupt anytime, but I'm going to have to kind of sit to run the computer. So the template has been set up. So you see this little yellow space? It's like this little bouncing ball. So it's like right here, spacing, and it's like fill in your name. It's like, oh, okay, fill in your name. And then equal spacing and fill in the date. So I'm not going to be like this all the way through, but so now when you get to, I'm going to abstract, et cetera, you'll do those at the end. So I'm using the dissertation template for a reason, and that is because it's the overarching from which the proposal comes from, and you all know that the proposal is 3 chapters. Are we having difficulty hearing over there? You are. Okay, so can I talk louder? Is that what I need? Okay, I'll try. So proposal is first 3 chapters. Prospectus is about 10 to 12 pages. And 10 points is the raw skeleton. But I'm going to start with the dissertation because it's got the most definitive descriptions for you. And I'll show you the magic. But the one thing I wanted to show you is right here in the introduction. So you delete this part and you fill in, if you can see on the screen, and that screen, you delete what's there and you put in your own content. So most learners, when they delete this content, the content is deleted out of their brain. And here's something that's pretty important. A paragraph should be 3 to 8 sentences in length, and should have a topic sentence. Topic sentence is your own words about what's in that paragraph, and since it is your own words, it does not have a citation. So we're now experiencing the AQR reviews are saying there will be no citation in the first sentence.
Good to know.
See? All right. You came tonight. We're done. Okay, I can go home now. No. Yes, so that's a lesson. So every paragraph, first sentence is yours, and it says, I'm going to talk about X. And that's the only thing I'm going to talk about in this paragraph is X. I am not going to talk about X, Y, and Z, because that's multiple topics for one paragraph. One paragraph, one topic, one intro section. So I wanted to just call your attention to that so when you delete it, you may want to place it someplace to remind yourself.
It's good because all the GCU ones dissertations I've been looking at are not that way.
They are not that way, yeah. Okay, now, this is what is called the rubric. And the rubric is quite magical. Quite magical. And I'm telling you it's magical. Yoo-hoo. So, most people pay attention to what's right here, but I just highlighted these 2 sections saying, okay, that's what goes in there, right? And I'll check that off. I'll give myself a score. So the learner gets to give themselves a score, chair gives a score, methodologist gives a score, content person gives a score. Another little tip here is that oftentimes learners think that, so 1 means you need improvement, 2 is it's good enough, 3 means it's extraordinary. So learners want to impress their chair and they give themselves a 3. A 3 means it is publishable quality. So there are not many that are doing first draft work that are publishable quality. So when I see a 3 in the rubric score for self-score, it's like waving a little red flag in front of me. And I'll go, I will show you how many places you have missed here that are taking you down from a 3 to about a 1.8. Okay? So just be kind to yourself and go hover around 2.2, kind of in there. I feel like I'm being very generous when I give a score of 2.3. So anything around 2 from a chair, methodologist, whatever, is pretty darn good. Okay, that was magic number 2. Okay, now here is the real magic. It's in the purple section, right there. If you take everything that is in every purple section, that will create the outline for your section. So it says, brief overview of the focus or the problem. That's what I write first. Explains why the study is worth conducting. That's my second one. Discuss how this study will be completed. My third piece. I'm done with the intro. And I then look at the rubric, the 2 sections below and say, did a pretty good job. Give myself a score. It's like, it's the outline, right? So I'm wandering around with this one time and I go, if that were the instructions, so somebody says, it's the logic of the section. And I go, the logic of the section? Yes, it's the outline. It forms the logic of the section. I go, no, explain logic of the section? So it means that it is essentially this piece will lead to that piece, which will lead to that piece. It's the logic of the section. So I go, great, lopes up. How many of you know lopes up? GCU, lopes up. So every time you see the purple, you can go, lopes up. I'm paying attention here to the rubric. Okay? Whew. Okay, now, background of the study. This is the juice of your study, if you will. If you are not grounded and well-formed in this one piece right here, the second piece that you write, your study is going to fall apart. It doesn't matter how carefully you craft your research design. It doesn't matter what else you do. If you do not have this section nailed down, it's going to be very wobbly. So, what makes up the background is essentially these things. Explains the history and the present state of this problem. And it's like, okay, should I talk about the history of No Child Left Behind? Well, that's probably interesting, but what is really the history of the problem you are studying now may not go all the way back to No Child Left Behind. Maybe something a little bit more current, right? So you want to make this part brief. But the real juice is in the next one about identifies the gap or need. So what the coaching there and the notes that I would make for myself if I were sitting in your side would be to say what I need to reference in this section, if I'm starting this section right now, should be 2016 or 2017 recent studies. That's it. Not 2012, 10, anything. 2016 and 17, because you are credentialing yourself as the most recent expert on this topic. So you are also standing on the shoulders of previous research, which is 2016 and 17. So we're not making up the problem. We're not saying, well, I saw something broken at work, so I'm trying to fix it. No. Or I want to make sure that my toxic leader gets fired. No. Right. Good one. Yeah. So it's like, you have to be able to take what issue you are going to study as a doctoral learner and candidate, and you must advance the body of knowledge. That's your job. How many other places can you think of that you get the opportunity to create new knowledge? I mean, doesn't that just give you goosebumps? I'm in this program to create new knowledge. So I'm going to be steeped on the shoulders of somebody else that has gone before me. I will cite them appropriately, and I will advance that research. So you can advance that research in several different ways. So you can look at, well, one person studied this issue by looking at X, another person studied this issue looking at Y, and somebody else looked at A. But I would like to look at how they all intersect. And so we sometimes refer to that as circling the wagons, and that finds your gap, if you will. Your gap comes from, when you read your articles, it comes from the following things. You identify the method, the design, the population in the study, because you would not want to do a quantitative, you wouldn't want your study to stand on the shoulders of a quantitative study where they had 5 participants. It's a little on the weak side, so you want to throw in the population. You would want to put in the findings and the recommendations for future research. It's the last 2 that lead to your problem statement. So I, as a chair or a reviewer or even general person reading, should be able to look at everything that you put in this section from 2016 and 2017 and look at the findings and recommendations from other studies and draw a direct correlation to your problem statement. So if you put in this, I want to look at truancy, and then you look at your problem statement and there's nothing about truancy, it's like, wow, where did truancy go? If you want to look at intellectual property, and you get over here and you look at you look at emotional intelligence, go, whoa, wait a second, what happened between those two? So just think, everything that you put in that background section should be related, okay? So, I saw a big deep breath over there. Yeah. Teaching this week in residency, I'm teaching residency 1. I have 2/3 of the class are psych students, PhD psychs, and have come in with very creative issues that they want to study. And I say to them, okay, where's the studies? What are the studies that you're basing yourself on? Well, I just know it's a problem at work. Okay. So now they're going to be doing a lot of midnight work tonight. Yeah. So this is the most important section. And there's just another little hint, right? Boy, your mouse goes really fast.
Sorry.
No, it's like right there. I'll see if I can highlight. Oh, no. Okay. I'll get this. No, it doesn't. Doesn't want it? Okay, so there's also a minimum and a maximum in each section. So when you are drafting your prospectus, it may say maximum 1 paragraph. It will probably say maximum 1 paragraph in the prospectus because they want it short. When you get to your proposal and your dissertation, it will say minimum this amount. So you are supposed to be talking about things as much as you need to talk about it in order to present the issue. Cool? So there's another little clue in the rubric. So now I'm going to go a little bit faster to some other ones. The problem statement, the instructions here give you the verbiage that you are to use depending on whether you are doing a quantitative study or a qualitative study. So as a faculty member, I can read the problem statement and tell immediately, even if you haven't told me, whether you're doing quant or qual. Okay? And you're going, I don't know yet. I don't even know what I'm studying yet. That's about right. You may be struggling with what you're going to study for this group over here for probably 2 years. It's like, oh, okay. This group, I think, is getting ready to get their chair. So you should be a little bit closer to that. I haven't made up a story about this group yet. So I could say, this is a group I'll make up that you have your chairs.
Our proposals are almost done.
Oh, all right. This is the group that's almost done, and that means and they will tell you over there that they are still getting knocked around. They are still being sent back for revisions. They are still getting challenged about, are you sure you want to do it this way? See? They're agreeing. So it's like, well, okay. Actually, it was kind of interesting, I got set up here. Yeah. So, your problem statement. The purpose statement, you go, well, how is that different? Well, there's a little formula, and it says it expands. So, it says, how will you contribute to the field? But it also expands in terms of, adds in the methodology, the sample, and the geography to your problem statement. So it kind of adds those in. So it's adding a little bit more in. Now in your prospectus, some of these are in different orders and some of these have different requirements. So just kind of hang in there. And I chose this one for a reason, just so we could go high and you could back it up. How's that? Your research questions are here. Now, in the proposal, prior to this, there is a section where you identify your theory. So I want you to think about this. If you were constructing a map for your dissertation, and I said to you, you have an idea of the issue that you're getting at. It's a phenomena, right? Phenomena? Anybody see the YouTube phenomena? I have trouble not getting that image of the Muppets with their little hair going, phenomena, phenomena. So if you can draw a picture on one sheet of paper of your study, it's a picture of the phenomena. What is the issue that is at work here? If you could go over to the next building over for residency 1, you will walk around the room and see their pictures. That's all they have up now. And they're all complaining about their pictures. They say they're ugly, they're not really artistic. It doesn't matter. It's a mental image of what this issue is that is at work in you, as well as in the literature. Now tomorrow, they will start putting up a sheet of paper that has the articles that are identifying the gap. They will then put up a sheet of paper that has their problem statement. So I will be able to go, match, match. Then they are going to develop their theoretical framework. So the theory can either be a theory, a model, or a concept. And you'll start to learn about that as you're going through your program. But it is absolutely imperative that that theory, model, or concept be identified before you can do your research questions. Oftentimes learners will say, why do I need that? Well, if you don't include it in your research questions, how will you gather data about your theory? And you'll say, well, why should I gather data about my theory? Well, because one of the sections in your dissertation says, how are you advancing the theoretical framework? How are you doing that? So some of you will say, well, I want to choose Bandura. And I will say, how are you going to advance Bandura? How else can Bandura be advanced? Pretty tried, true, applies to all kinds of situations, explains a lot of things, but how can you advance Bandura? So sometimes you may get challenged and pushed to try and find a theoretical framework that's a little bit more contemporary, that may be built off of Bandura, that became something a little more contemporary that you might use. And in my mind, I always think about this. Okay, I'm going to work really hard on my dissertation. I'm going to get done with it. I'm going to be Dr. Quade, and they're immediately going to call me up to say, will you come and give a keynote presentation at our national conference about your work? And I will be so excited, and I will send them an outline of what I did. And then I will wait and wait and wait and wonder what happened to my special invitation. And pretty soon I'll get back a letter saying, we asked other people to send in theirs, and 95% of them did exactly what you did, just a different population. We were looking for something a little different. Thank you very much. Maybe another dissertation time. So I took that to heart when I did mine. I was going to be the new and budding author on complexity science applied to organizations. Until my chair got a hold of it. And here's what it became. What are the simple rules that leaders use during times of rapid change? And you go, what? And that's exactly what I said when I read it. It's like, what? But all I had to do was figure out from leaders what were the simple rules, which were defined by complexity science. What were they that they used when things were in big turmoil, chaos? And I was done. I didn't have to look at how did those simple rules build organizational coherence. I didn't have to look at how did those simple rules emerge during times of really weird things. I just had to look at what were they. And then I became Dr. Quade. But I wasn't done, so I went out and replicated my own study, looking at what I wanted to look at after I was done. That's what I wanted to do. So it's just get done. Narrow, narrow, narrow. Yep, and I could have picked some really huge theories to go into my research questions. And I didn't. Okay? Little. Yes, ma'am.
You said it could be based on a theoretical foundation, a framework, or a concept.
Wow.
How do we know how far back we should go? And if we should base it on a well-known theory like Bandura or something else, or on a newer concept?
It depends. It'll become one of your things that you get really tired of hearing. It depends. It really depends on what you want to do as an outcome. So, a theory is older. It has stood the test of time. A model is a depiction of a system. So it's got usually little aspects, dimensions, but underneath that are a combination of theories. There's a combination of them. So if you pick a model, you're going to have to discuss the theoretical underpinnings of that whole piece. And if you do a concept is an emerging theory, something that someone has put out and said, I think this is pretty good, and it needs a little bit more testing. Those are the ones that I find really juicy, very juicy, because they look very provocative. For example, there's one that is out that looks at ethics defined as being of service. Whoa, now isn't that a different ethical decision or definition, right? So it's like, wow, how can I think about what I want to loop in to my study that will make it leading edge, that I get the invitation to? Yeah. So There's the done dissertation, and then there's the provocative one that might take a little longer. So research questions, okay? Now this next section is one that's pretty specific. It's about advancing knowledge. So if we look at this one, it says here, you clearly have to identify the literature that you are using, and then you have to say how your literature, your study is going to contribute to advancing literature. Okay? That's this section. Then you also say, here's my theory, and how am I advancing that? That's right there. Significance of my study is how I'm going to be impacting my community. So that breaks them down a little bit differently, but it gives you the instructions. If you follow what's in the lopes up section, you have your outline and you know what to do. Okay? So I'm going to start to, okay, now I'm going to give a couple more. Rationale for methodology is in chapter 1, a discussion about the distinction between quantitative and qualitative studies only. It's not really about your study, it's just what is quan and what is qual and why did I choose the one I did. That's it. Then you go to the design section. So when you get access to the DC network, sorry. Early birds there. Go into the residency folder, and there is a PowerPoint for residency 881. Doesn't matter who you are, but you can still get into that one. Look for PowerPoint number 3. And in that, there will be a great description of what is qual and what is quan, and in the notes, it gives you lots of references. Then it will say, okay, here are the 5 approved designs for qualitative, and it goes through each one, gives you references. Here are the 5 approved for quantitative, and gives you references. How easy is that, right? You would think that. So we're giving it to you. And now I'm going to give you another tip. You will find in each one of your courses that somewhere embedded in that course is something that relates to one of these dissertation sections. There always is something. Early classes might be around, how's your paragraph being formed? Later on, you'll start to see a DQ about what's the difference between quantitative and qualitative. It'll be there. Every one of these courses is helping you come up with a part of your dissertation template. And if you're clever, you will capture what all of your colleagues are posting because they have great references. They may not have written about it very well, but they will have great references for you to use. Yeah. I have this little bugaboo about abstract writing. So abstract writing is something you can find in the abstract, one sentence. And so why I am troubled by that, it's like, if I did all of this research, I worked for years doing my dissertation, and all somebody did was quote one sentence out of my abstract, really? Where's the credit here? You know, so just kind of think about how are you honoring the people that have gone before you when you fall into that one sentence from an abstract. Yeah, right. So just put a little emotion into it. Okay, I'm with you. Yeah. So you're going to do definition of terms, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now I'm going to drop in,
How many terms do you recommend be in?
Oh,
Well, that's going to be, it depends.
yeah, well, you want it to be ones that are not normally understood.
Okay.
Yes, not normally
It's
understood.
like for mine, I don't need to put gender in there and
No.
something like that.
Yeah, I think they got that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was
So-
asking.
yeah. So something that you want to create a nuance for. So if somebody can look it up on Wiki or the dictionary, then it's probably already fine. But if you have a specific nuance that you want to have the reader keep in mind when they're reading that,
Like my theory, probably not very many people have heard it, so I've defined that.
I wouldn't put that in your definition of terms. I'd put it here in this next section.
I have. Okay.
Okay, good, yeah. All right. Summary in this one is you must cover all of the points from that chapter in the summary. So it's almost like a little 10 points in the summary. Okay? Now, in chapter 2, there's 2 sections to chapter 2. The first part is theory, and the second part is the literature review. So we kind of split the 2 out. Your theory, if you are doing a quantitative study, you will have a theory for every variable of your study. And you probably need 2 variables to have a good quant study, right? Right? Okay, you got it. Like, are they in relationship or correlated or connected or something? So you need 2. So you're going to have 2 theories. You need a theory for every variable that you have in a quantitative study.
This is the first time I'm hearing this.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Quantitative needs a theory for every variable. Okay, for qualitative, you can have 1.
For the full project.
You can, yes. Or you can look at multiples together.
And then N
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Can it be the same?
You can have if the theory speaks to both variables, you can use that.
Okay.
You can use that. You can use that. But you need a theory for each variable. Okay? All right. So, I love it when somebody says, oh, I want to have 3 or 4 theories because I really like this one. I really like this one. Oh, I really like this one. It's like, great. For every theory, you are going to start with the historical perspective. You're going to say, okay, then it was added on to by so-and-so, or somebody else said this part didn't work, and then it was advanced here, then somebody put it in a new bottle and called it something else, and now here it is. For every theory, how many pages do you think that's going to take? Forever? Just give a rough for the people over there. 82? Well, each theory is going to start with at least 8, 10, 12, 15 pages just for the history of the theory. So, okay, I got 1, 2, 3. Okay, all right. Then you have to bring them together. There's some more work. Okay, so it's like the and. It's like add more time. So that's your theory part, okay? Now, if your theory has some dimensions or some characteristics, servant leadership has some characteristics, right? What else has characteristics? Transformational leadership, yep, has characteristics. So there's like little characteristics out there. You can choose to discuss those characteristics in the theory section or in the literature review. It's up to you. You can decide. But remember, your literature review section needs to be a minimum of 30 pages. So decide how you want to load it. Okay?
How do you want to load it?
Load it, yes. So for every theme, you are doing a deep dive literature review. Because you must be presenting yourself and your content as this is the latest, newest research on this topic.
And is it the whole chapter 2 that has to have 75%?
Okay, wait, let me, I want to bring this one home. He's so excited, yeah. So I want to bring this one. So just know that for every theme, so if you do want to do No Child Left Behind, you're going to become the new greatest expert on No Child Left Behind. Okay? But it's going to be a full lit review. Okay? Now, in chapter 2, you also have some other requirements, and I'm going to show, I'll get there. Okay. So so you have your lit review, then you're going to get to, I guess I could do it there. Okay, here's your topics, how you're going to cover them. Got to cover them nice and thoroughly. Then at the very end here, it says methodology section. Now, calling your attention to this now so that you don't fall into this little pit. Everything that is in this chapter, every one of the articles that you've cited is a study that was conducted using a certain methodology. You need to keep track of that. So how would you keep track of that as you're doing your research? Ask your chair. Oh, brilliant. Yes. No. Nice try. But here's what I recommend is that as you're starting now, create an Excel spreadsheet. Down the left-hand column, put the 10 points. Every article you read, just read for the 10 points. Because you can go back and find it. You're going to keep those, right? Some of you are going to keep hard copies. Some of you are going to keep them soft copies. So, Article 1, next column over. You capture little clues or the cliff notes for that article. You could put QL for qual, QN for quan. Just keep track of everything in there. Go to Article 2, next line over. Keep track of it. Keep track of it. All of a sudden, you'll start to see something emerging from your tracking, and you'll go, oh, there's an issue here that is all around this, and I'm noticing most of the research has been quantitative, and therefore there's an opportunity to go deeper into that. Or you can look at how so-and-so says this about this issue, but however, so-and-so says this about it. You've just started to do a compare and contrast for a paragraph. So start your Excel spreadsheets now, and then when themes start to develop, create a new tab, keep it going. Keep it going, keep it going. You can color code it, you can be very creative, but when you get to this chapter in this section right here, it's going to ask for you to synthesize the various methodologies and designs that were used in prior empirical research. And you're going to say, thank you, Dr. Quade, for telling me to pay attention to this now. Thank you, thank you, and you'll send me a little card. Okay? The next one is about instrumentation. So it's like, well, were there any surveys or instruments used? Right? If you're doing a qualitative study, you could say, well, sources of data were interviews, et cetera, et cetera. So you could start to track. If you're tracking your 10 points, you'll have that data done. In addition, you can use that whole Excel spreadsheet for another section where you have to identify your literature review. You have to say what you did for a literature review. For me, it is not acceptable for you to say, oh, I used Echo Search and this and that for my lit review. Nope. I want to see a table that says I read 700 articles that range from 2015 to 16. I read 20 articles that were in 16 because that's all there were. So it's like I want to see the progression of your rigorous research. And I want to see it by date, and I want to see it by journal. I want to be able to ask you, what did you do? So, might as well start capturing it now. Another tip, magic of the rubric.
So even if we don't use it in our dissertation, you still want to know what we've read?
Well, it's like when it says, I've surveyed the literature, well, I surveyed the literature. You decide how you want to, yeah. Because I'm like you, I'll have a section that says, oh, that was a nice article, but later. Or that one didn't even relate. Yes?
Is this initially what we're doing since in the earlier classes, doing the literature reviews that we have to do for every class, that initially what we're doing is just using that to an Excel sheet and start tracking that? Or?
Well, I'm saying this is the one that you're tracking for your dissertation. This is your dissertation. Now, I'm going to address that one, and thank you very much for bringing that up. I'm going to strongly recommend, urge, cajole, whatever, that you think about the bifurcation that you carry in your brain. You carry a bifurcation. It's called class, DQ assignment, DQ assignment. Done. Class, dun, 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 class, dun, dun, dun. Oh, residency. Oh my gosh, dissertation. I better start doing something on my dissertation. And then you walk out of residency 1, you go, class, dun, 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 class, dun, dun, dun. Oh, residency 2. What do I do now? No, you should be encouraging. You could be working on your dissertation with absolutely every single class that you take, with every single DQ that you post, or every single participation response that you give. See if you can find 5 to 10 articles every week that you can somehow use in your classwork. And you may say, but they're just like oil and water. You'll be surprised at how creative you can be if you think that you're working your process in parallel. If you're not working your process in parallel, you can just say, okay, I need to put in the bank at least another 6 to 8 extension courses at the end. So it's your choice. But if you work it in parallel, you'll find, sometimes you'll read somebody else's posting and you go, what? And you go, oh, working on dissertation. Okay. So, but within every course, there is just always something that relates to a section that is generic, like what is method, what is design, what are ways to collect data, what are data sources, how do you analyze data, what is thematic code? It shows up all the time. So you'll go, wow, isn't GC great? We like GCU because we're trying to help you all the way along on that. Okay, cool. And did I answer your question about the 75? Did I? No, I didn't. Okay. All right. That would be, okay, right here. You have to have a minimum in this section of 50 peer-reviewed articles. And right here it says verify that you have 75% of your references are scholarly sources.
So it's just this section.
And that's where you put in the little magical table and you say, I have, yes, I got it.
It's not all of chapter 2. That's where people, I think, are getting confused. I just want
Well, I would say this is all of chapter, because the 25% really refers to what you're doing on your theoretical framework.
because it's
So-
the older stuff.
Mhm. And your obligation for advancing the body of knowledge is to be current,
Yes.
the current expert. You're the new expert on something. Got it? Yeah. Books says maximum 10. There's a little bit of an scholarly argument about books being acceptable because books are essentially could be opinion. I know because I've written 6 of them. So, I didn't really go out and research some of them. I got a couple of them that are pretty decent, but they were essentially how I plucked things together. So, right, it comes out of a book. And if you relied on my book, I would be sorry for you. So, whatever. So be careful of your books. Dissertations you can use, but they're not really, so here's the other scholarly. A dissertation is not a peer-reviewed publication. You say, but it had my committee review. Well, your committee had a lot vested in you, so they're not really independent scholars reviewing your dissertation. A dissertation is really good for discovering how somebody else has framed something, how they've written something, and they have awesome references. And so you say, but those references are older. You go into the library system and you say, who has written about this author, citing this particular article in 2016 or 17, and you cite that one. That's how you do that. Okay? Cool? You with me? I haven't given you so much you're ready to, okay. All right, good. Okay, now we're going to come to chapter 3. Chapter 3 I'm going to go over pretty lightly because chapter 1 is essentially what was done for your prospectus. Okay? Chapter 2, you now go out and you get yourself steeped in the literature, and now you come back and write chapter 3 and you say, But there are some sections in here that are exactly the same, look like they were exactly the same as in chapter 1. Well, no, it's now applied to your study. Your study. So there's some specific little nuances in here that when you do your lopes up, you will see that there's some little subtle differences. So here, methodology would be, why did you choose this as being very appropriate for your study? And you will say, because the literature says, because you've now completed your lit review, the literature says this was a good way to approach it, not because I wanted to. Same on design. So you're tracking the designs in the articles that you're reading. That's why that Excel spreadsheet is going to be very helpful. Yeah, kind of magical, huh? Population sample. This one's a little tricky one. So if you could, there's no phrase called sample population. No. Population, target population comes from population, sample comes from that, and from that comes your participants. So it's like a big funnel, but it's not a sample population. It's a sample of the population. Okay? So there's a little tricks along the way, which I'm sure your chair is going to get you for. Here's something that is a little bit of a nuance. So instrumentation will be the title of this section if you are doing a quantitative study. If you are doing a qualitative study, the title of the section will be source of data. Okay? And that's where you describe things. Okay? And then we go to validity, and you say, well, I think I understand in a quantitative study if I have a survey. Oh, so let's start with that. Quantitative studies use surveys. Qualitative studies use questionnaires. You can also use a survey in a qualitative study, and that does not make it a mixed method study. It just means you found a normed and validated survey that measures part of what you want. Helps you investigate what you want to investigate. So qualitative lets you use a bit more. Quantitative, the only word that should appear there is survey. Okay? Got it. And so you'll talk about the validity of your instruments or the validity of your approach. So there's like little things in here, and this is where I think the pre-sections are really helpful because it gives you the definition of what is validity and what is reliability. So that, and we could go into all that. But I think I'd like to, all right, and then here, data collection is where you are going to write the Martha Stewart recipe, not the Better Homes and Gardens one. You will not take a bunch of things and throw them in a pile and stir them up and hope you get a cake. No. You will take the eggs out of the refrigerator and let them come to room temperature for a certain amount of time. Then you will separate the egg yolk and the egg white, and you will beat the egg white for a certain number of minutes. It's like that descriptive. Yes. So it's like absolutely every single step. And so if you have, for example, 3 sources of data, however you identify your sources of data in the prior section, then repeat them in the same order in this section. So if you say I'm going to do a questionnaire first, then an interview, then a focus group. Okay, now we're down to how are you going to collect that? Questionnaire, and you describe step, 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 starting with as soon as I get my IRB approval, then this is what I go and do. There's no I in there, but this is what is going to be done. Then you repeat for interviews. This is exactly what I'm going to do, and I'm going to support that in the appendix with my interview guide, which has my questions already developed because I have now mapped my questions back against my research questions so that I know that here's my research questions. I know that every little piece of data is going to give me something that gives me an answer to that research question. Cool? So then, when you get to data analysis, you're going to repeat the same thing. Here is every single step I'm going to do. Whew, that's as far as we're going to go today. Good enough? So now I'm just going to open it up for general questions.
Are we gonna be able, is this gonna be posted on the DC network?
I believe we have been taped. Yes. Yeah. I probably won't watch it because I can't stand to look at myself after I've been taped. Yes, it will be on there, but just remember, is that me?
Yeah.
Okay. That's you. Okay. So, but I just wanted you to get a sense of, there is a structure here, and there is a reason for the structure, so don't get creative. Don't say, I've written the problem statement over here, and now I'm gonna juice it up a bit over here. Same, okay? Same, because trust me, somebody will find where you tried to add a little bit more into it and it didn't work. Okay? Cool?
Whose decision is it to limit or give a time frame to provide a password?
I honestly do not know. I would turn that over to Dr. Ames. He's in his first class and he can't get into the DC network yet.
You just automatically get that towards the end of your second or beginning of your first class. I remember I was confident a bit to get in, but there's no way to be done.
Nothing like that. Okay.
Unless you make a
I'll find
friend.
out something.
Yeah, you make a friend, yes.
Unless you make it a friend.
Yes. So I want to tell one final story here for you. Twice a year, there is a graduation just down the street, or down the hallway here, at the arena. The arena holds 7,000 people. Okay? So imagine, family, friends, lots of people. Down on the floor, the first group to come in is generally an undergraduate class. They have the flat tams and they have the short gowns, and they sit in the back. The next group to come in are the masters. They have the short and the flat, but they have a little sash. The last group to come in are the doctoral candidates. At this point, you're a candidate, and you go to the front of the room, and you own the front of the room. And following you are the faculty. And the faculty is dressed in the colors with the hood of their university and their program. And when we come by, we are very proud to be welcoming you to our side of the fence. And I want you to hold that image every time that you feel you want to give up. Every time that you think you've had it with revisions. I'm not going to do this anymore. I am tired of this. Walk down to the stadium and take a look and imagine yourself going all the way, because you carry your hood all the way up the aisle, up on the stage, and then the dean or someone else will put that hood over you, which is your badge of honor. And no one can take that away from you. And trust me, it will change your life. So don't give up. And use the rubric as your friend. Thank you. So I think we're done. Are we done? Okay, I was watching the,
Our issue.
okay.
So I just wanted to shout out to Robert Liberton, who's our vice presidents, who's here tonight, and I didn't get to mention him. Again, if you are interested in student study groups, faculty study groups, they're on the DC network, or you can email me. And thank you very much for coming, Dr. Quade. Thank you very much for coming on the long day. you all for coming.